He needs his vote polled immediately.
And I'll say, I don't care. The leader, the boss. Where is Josh Heupel?
The largest humans he can find.
You got Miami and Georgia and Florida State and Tennessee and Texas A&M.
Kirby wants you.
LSU and Ole Miss.
Not even a football player, but he's 6'10", 334. Kirby said, sign me up. That's all they've got to offer when it comes to a defensive player. What could they possibly say other than, how down do you have to be for a win? Let us pay you. All they got to be is enormous. What could they possibly say?
Knock the team out west. Oh, well.
They'll take him if they're lowly rated, too.
I'm not some guy who's some Big Ten homer.
Behind that,
I will never find it acceptable. I want to see it, man.
Because they've got nothing else to go on.
All right, let's head to the Yellowhammer State. We're going down to Alabama, and I really feel like I can relate to what's going on with a lot of the fan base at Alabama. So, taking it all the way back to when Kalen DeBoer was hired, my initial reaction as an admitted Bama hater, right? But I'm fair. I'm a hater, but I'm fair. I wanted it to fail. I thought that all the people saying this guy can't recruit in the SEC, and how's this guy going to fit in to the Deep South, coming from the Dakotas, where he was very successful in the NIAI level, a couple national championships, then very successful very quickly at Washington. But his classes at Washington, recruiting, even for Washington standards, were lower than normal. Obviously, you got the power of Bama behind you, but I didn't think he was going to be able to stay recruiting anywhere near the level of Saban. And I thought he'd probably drop down to second or third in the SEC in recruiting in short order. Now, this was wishful thinking, right? Obviously, it had logic behind it, but I was also hoping that was the case, as everybody else in college football was. Everybody was sick of Bama, right? Like, it would be nice for Bama to get their comeuppance. Now, many people forget that we did live through a period of very average Bama, and 24 years between Bear Bryant and Nick Saban. And in those 24 years, they finished outside the top 10 17 times. They finished outside the top 25 10 times, but we're still able to cop a national championship with Gene Stallings in that 24-year period. But they were not ruling college football. They weren't even close in that 24 years. They happened to have the two best coaches maybe in the history of college football. And kudos to them for being able to find that and that talent and get it locked in. The best program there ever has been is Alabama, in my opinion. So you've got Alabama, who hires Kalen DeBoer. My initial reaction, I'm jumping on with the people who say it's not going to go good. And we see this dude walk into the season this year after guys left and still be able to remain the team with the number one talent composite walking into the season. And I think that is unbelievably impressive. He kept some key guys on staff. He didn't keep the recruiting people on staff. He brought in his guy from Washington, Courtney Morgan. I thought that was a disaster of a decision. I chuckled. Well, Alabama just landed a number 2 class in the country. Would have been number 1 if Texas hadn't surged at the end. Kudos to them. But to land a number 2 class and to be able to keep the number 1 talent composite in the country after taking over for Saban, when I thought a whole lot more guys would split city on them, and they lost several impact guys. But man, that is impressive as hell. Now, Alabama was very smart. They knew that if you look, when we look at the kids in 26 and 27, you want that aura to remain that Alabama is still the place where top guys go. You want that to resonate throughout the juniors and the sophomores in high school. How do you do that? You ensure that this first class under Kalen DeBoer is a top class so that everybody knows, look, it's still rolling. So they did whatever they had to do to make sure that that happened for DeBoer this year. They weren't getting the Saban discount anymore. They got their money up. They made sure it happened. And all respect for that. You know, that's what it takes to get it done. People knock out of jealousy, knock other programs that they're not a fan of for recruiting by saying they just spent. And that's what it is, man. If you care enough to make sure you get it done, you're a serious program. If you don't care enough to make sure you get it done, you're an unserious program. Let's talk about the on-field performance. 9-3, almost make the playoffs. Some people are saying that is unacceptable at Alabama. I agree, in a normal year. This is a guy's first year in a year where he totally changed the offense, totally changed the defense. I think 9-3 is pretty respectable. Now, you had the loss to Vanderbilt, which is obviously an unacceptable loss. But you had some big wins. You beat Kirby. He beat Missouri. He killed LSU, killed Missouri, killed LSU. You lose to Tennessee, a playoff team. And then you had the terrible loss, which was the terrible loss to Oklahoma, where you couldn't score a touchdown. Everything looked bad. And the fact that that was so late in the season, I think is what is really skewing the perception on Kalen DeBoer's first year. Now, I could say that as a fan of a team whose fan base is currently going to war with each other over what should be done with the guy at the top, when you look at a guy like Ryan Day, who's been very successful, but not been able to get over the hump in the big games at the end of the season, a lot of people on one side say that's insane that you would think you want Ryan Day gone. He's been so successful. He's got us there every year. It's just going to take time. He's going to get it. And you got the other folks that say, no, he's shown me enough in 6 years that he's not going to be able to get over that hump. And I'm willing to roll the dice on what's next. I can understand how that's going. And it seems to me like the same thing's going on at Alabama in Kalen DeBoer's first year. And it's being exasperated by how many guys have hopped in the portal already. You got 14 guys who have hopped in the portal at Bama already.
Once again, to talk about my Alabama Crimson Tide, and it's not on a good note. We have lost another one to the transfer portal. This time,
14 guys may seem like a lot right now, but it started now, and they're not in the playoffs. When we look last year, we look at teams like Georgia, 24 guys lost in the portal. Texas, 24, 25 guys. Ohio State, 24, 25 guys. That number right there was the norm last year. I don't see any reason why that would change this year. So I think we can expect schools like that recruit at that level to be losing that kind of number of guys on a yearly basis until we see the changes that we're seeing in recruiting, and we're seeing it now, where we used to see these teams load up on the best of the best at every position on down the board. Now we're seeing some more strategy saying maybe it's better to take, instead of, let's take Brian Hartline, for instance, the best wide receiver recruiter in the country. He takes 1 5-star, and then he gets some projecty guys to go in with them. Not all projecty guys, 4-man class. He did try to do some good evaluations, some guys that won't be expecting to come in and play year 1 and 2. And everybody's going to do this across the board. And what we're going to see is these bigger programs that are used to losing those guys. We're going to see more guys retain in the program for longer periods of time because they're not coming in as a high 4-star that's below the other high 4-star, that's below the other high 5, below the 5-star. And they all think that they can play right away. So what they're doing is a strategy that I think is going to bring those numbers of guys transferring out down. We just haven't seen that come into effect yet. It's going to take a couple cycles. But Alabama losing 14 guys right off the rip, I understand, while frustrating. I think that it's going to take a couple of cycles before this guy gets his dudes in and gets some more loyalty bought into him. But man, I'm damn impressed. And I'm coming from the point of view of, I was a hater, total hater on DeBoer. I'm impressed. I think Bama's got the right guy. I don't like some of the things he's done, for sure. When we talk about Alabama in-state recruiting, the top 12 players in the state of Alabama, 10 of them are going to Auburn. One's going to Oregon and one's going to Ohio State. Alabama not even represented in the top 12 players in the state, in a state that's got some good talent. And I think that's really an odd strategy. I don't agree with that at all. But at the same time, he's taking advantage of Lincoln Riley not locking down California and his network in the South. I just think that expanding his network right where he's at would be the best thing to do. Get the high school coaches on board with you. And he's clearly not. So I think that's probably a mistake. We'll see how that plays out down the road. But I also don't like the super lax environment that he's taken. He went from, one end of the spectrum with Nick Saban to like total players coachy. The videos coming out of preseason camp and out of spring camp just looked like, hey man, everybody's having fun. And it looked like that in the Vanderbilt game. Looked like a team that spent the preseason having fun. So we'll probably see some adjustment there. Maybe not. At any rate, if I was a Bama fan, I'd feel pretty damn confident right now that you got maybe not the perfect guy, but the right guy to steward the program who's going to get you in the playoffs many more years than not. And in his first year, pretty good. But let's talk about the other team in Alabama, Auburn, who, like I said, locked down the state of Alabama, an excellent class, a top 5 class at Auburn. And they went flip city, man. They beat a ton of big schools for a lot of really good guys. They've got the quarterback in the class. They've got the stud Malik Autry, defensive tackle out of Alabama. Awesome one tech, superstar in the making. And you got a whole lot of excellent pieces to go along with that great recruiting class last year that includes guys like Cam Coleman. You needed the quarterback. They decided this year not to get the quarterback. They were going to stick with Peyton Thorne and take their lumps. And they took their lumps, but they saved that money and they put it towards this class in 2025. And they put it towards the transfer portal to go get a stud quarterback this year, we thought. Now, they chose Jackson Arnold. I'm not so sure how I feel about that. Jackson Arnold at Oklahoma is a dude who got benched. First off, Oklahoma pushing Dylan Gabriel out for this kid doesn't look like the right move. Well, it certainly wasn't the right move now that he's gone on top of it. But Jackson Arnold never really showed us what we thought he might. But we look at the receiving core, tons of injuries. At one point in the season, 5 of their top receivers were injured. The offensive line sucked. Jackson Arnold is a gamer. He's a dude who's going to do what it takes. He runs a couple of 100-yard games rushing on the year. And I really like him for that sense. He is a gamer. But we're looking at a guy who has a high upside, but, the floor I think is pretty low too. I feel like there was a lot of other options out there that Hugh Freeze could have got that, I don't know, might have been a little bit of a safer option to be able to compete immediately in the SEC next year. And he didn't take them. Instead, he goes with Arnold. Now, there's been some speculation that he might be bringing in a second quarterback to compete with Arnold. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Arnold's his dude. And, I don't know, man. I don't know. Tell me what you think, guys. Did he go after the right dude? What's your opinion on Kalen DeBoer? I want to know what the masses are feeling about this because I didn't even realize the Kalen DeBoer being an issue. And here's where this came up to me. It was a talk about Ryan Day, and the people who are on the side of keeping Ryan Day were using this as an example and saying, look what happened to Bama, as if Bama just totally fell off the face of the earth. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, is that how you're viewing this? Like a dude in his first year goes 9-3, almost makes the playoffs? That's not how I'm viewing this. And, I think I'm a pretty harsh judge, particularly of teams I want to see fall off. Right? No offense, Bammers. We all want to see you fall off. You know how it goes when you're at the top. Anyway, appreciate you guys for joining me. Let me know what you think. Please subscribe to the new channel. Talk to you soon. Juck on College Football out. Hey, it's Juck.
Juck? Who is Juck?
Juck on Bucks.
Juck on Bucks. Juck on Bucks?
Juck.
Juck. Juck on Bucks.
My guy, Juck.
Juck on Bucks.
My buddy Juck.
Juck is the Juck.
Juck on Bucks.
Okay. Juck is junk.
The Juck Eyes.
The Juck Eyes.
Juck on Bucks.
Junk. Juck. Not junk. Juck.